everyone. Greetings. Merry Christmas. Soon to be Happy New Year. Welcome. We made it. And somehow we fooled the Blaze into doing this again. 239 shows ago, we started off with the year 2025. We have now made it to the end. This is show 240 and the final program of the year. I am Steve Deace with Todd Erzin, with Aaron McIntyre. This is our year in review. We'll get into Todd and Aaron's selections of the top 10 stories of the year. We're going to spend a good deal of this hour breaking those down. We will look back on the top 10 predictions that I made at the start of this year and how those did and did not turn out. I've not gone back and looked at them since. I'm not even sure I remember half of them. So we will take a look at those, and then we're going to play our video clip of the year as well. So, gentlemen, as we sit here and embark upon the beginning of the end of another year's journey on this program, I want us to look back on yesterday's Deace group and the conversation we had there with our guests, Sarah Gonzalez and Paul Alexander. And something I noticed about Paul Alexander, it's a bit of a subtle difference, but it's significant nevertheless. I don't know if you guys realize this or not, but near as I can tell, pretty much every time Paul took a contrarian view, I'm sure there's going to be an exception or two, but as far as I can tell, nearly every time Paul took a contrarian view on this show yesterday, it was actually to criticize Trump, our own side, our industry, from the right. Hey, I was promised conservatism. Hey, I was promised MAGA. Hey, I was promised America First. And I noticed it right away when I said, hey, you know, Daniel Horowitz could have just come on this show and said verbatim what you just said. And then he did it again. I'm like, you know, Daniel Horowitz literally wrote that column for The Blaze about 10 times this year, right? Did you guys pick up on that? Am I just making that up? Did you guys notice that? Because it definitely seemed the disagreements we've had with Paul on the show were different than the kinds of disagreements we used to have in the past, at least at the very beginning.
Well, I don't think I'm surprised, is because he was never interested in Trump as Nazi.
Yeah.
You know, so other people offering criticisms from the left, that's just automatically where we go. He's got no patience for it. He always thought that nonsense was dumb. So he actually, he was capable of seeing over the years that he's become our friend, the value added of certain elements of the right broadly, Trump and MAGA specifically. And now, after a year of 2.0, he's not only capable of coming at it objectively, but also he's interested enough to improving his worth by coming with receipts. So not particularly surprised.
And he did. He did come with receipts. Another word for receipts would be evidence.
Yeah.
You know, like what Candace Owens has been coming to the table with.
Exactly like that, of course.
Yeah. Aaron, did you notice this?
Yes, I did. Paul is a very sincere individual. I'm sure our listeners can pick up on that, but certainly having gotten to know him over the course of the years, he's not really into infotainment. Now, he's an entertaining guy, for sure. He brought some other receipts that were pretty hilarious. He's an entertaining guy, but he's not into infotainment. There's a huge difference between being entertaining and producing infotainment. And not all infotainment is bad, but infotainment is kind of an end in and of itself. Paul, I think, really sincerely believes what he believes and has convictions, I believe, and sometimes convictions change, and maybe his have to some degree, but I did notice the same thing, and I just think it's important for our audience to understand both in person and I think what you listen to or watch from your end of this equation. There's a lot of sincerity with him.
Indeed. And I think, you know, one of the things he said to us yesterday, I didn't want to address it there because, you know, getting as much of that year-end Deace group in on the regular show as we do is hard enough without me digressing further. And that usually ends up being one of the longer overtimes we do every year. Some years it's been like an hour to finish, you know, depending on how robust the conversation is on the program. But he said, hey, you know, I shouldn't have been surprised. You know, I was, but I shouldn't have been, because I know you guys were so adamant that you thought you had to win that last election. But he said, hey, you guys have had lots of criticisms of stuff that you thought could have gone better and should have gone better. And I think that just because I think a competition has cosmic consequences doesn't mean I don't have a conscience, right? And you could want, your favorite team to win the game very badly, but that doesn't mean that you just gave up on, well, why do you keep doing stuff that doesn't work, right? No, I don't want a coach who was apparently texting OnlyFans stars at halftime, okay, right? Competition and conscience don't have to be in conflict. I did my alliteration. I love my alliteration, Todd. I love my alliteration.
Know that.
Right?
Especially when you do it with Michigan analogies. It's just breathtaking. Competition
and conscience don't have to be in conflict, okay? Last year, we were not the people governing the country, right? Our people weren't running the show. We were competing, I should say, to determine who was going to run the show, right? And it was very clear that just because I didn't want a communist cackler as president doesn't mean that I just don't have a conscience. I'm just going to let him run over and do whatever he wants and not have any criticism. Well, Steve, you guys spent much of the first half of this year not criticizing. Well, again, we told you, we're always going to do what we tell you guys. You may not like what we tell you and do, okay? That's fair, all right? Sometimes we don't like what we tell you and do, all right? But we're always going to do what we tell you guys, right? It's like in 2024, there was a segment of you that just seemed shocked. I told you up front. Listen, I'm going to go hard and compete because I think DeSantis is the better candidate. But if we lose this thing, the next day, man, I'm all in for Trump because we have to win. Did I not say that literally the entire time leading up to the 2024 primary?
Absolutely.
How many times did I reiterate it?
Well,
over and
we
over
were
again?
the ones, all you guys complain. We live in Iowa. You and I actually went to our caucus sites, spoke on behalf of not Donald Trump, but Ron DeSantis.
Yeah. And remember in 23, we only vetted 3 candidates that we would consider voting for, and they were Trump, DeSantis, and RFK Jr. So again, there wasn't some hidden agenda, that nothing was secret. We told you up front exactly what we were going to do, exactly what the plan was, and then we did that thing. And then we spent a good time. There was a good portion of last year, though, where a segment of you thought we had sold out or something by doing exactly what we told you in advance we were going to do. Am I making any of that up? Because I seem to recall that's how it went.
You are not making that up.
Similarly, we told you after we won, hey, we've got to have a unified front and get this thing off to a good start. Because if we don't get a crap ton done in this very first year, we're screwed. We're going to lose the midterms. And then Trump will be a lame duck right after, and that's when he's not fending off impeachment. Did I not say that? Literally first day after the election and the first day back on the air in January.
Yes.
And we kept pounding that home. And now, it made it easier for us to do that because they were on offense on the issues from the first 6 months, right? Okay. Now, some of you now are saying, well, you're not being as unified and supportive as you were before. Now I'm getting the other reaction. Well, we're not on offense on issues as much as we were before. Trump did not stand up to any judges. Trump keeps endorsing all these various U.S. Senate sellouts and betrayers in primary, so we can't ever get rid of these guys. 56-0. Republican senators are 56-0 in their primary since Trump became king of the GOP. Tell me you've got 6 Republicans in the Senate that don't deserve a primary, let alone they're 56-0. Republican incumbent senators are. That's ridiculous. So again, all we ever do is exactly what we're going to tell you we're going to do. Doesn't mean you have to like it. Doesn't mean you have to agree. But I don't know how we can be more transparent than we already are. And I thought that was an important point that Paul made there, which is why I wanted to spend a few minutes here on our final show of the year addressing that. We're always going to tell you what we think. And we're even going to tell you that what we think is couched around what we think needs to happen, if that makes sense. Okay? Do you think I agreed with every speech Trump gave during the 2024 campaign? Do you think I agreed with every hire, every statement that was made?
Once again, they don't have to guess. Even while you were supporting him, you were saying, but this is where I disagree with him. Or I
wouldn't have put the lesbian porn model in the convention, for example. I wouldn't have taken all the pro-life planks out of the platform, for example. But because the number one goal was to make sure the communist cackler does not win, I'm going to have to make the calculation, is this criticism, does it get in the way of that goal? And if it doesn't, then it's in my personal preference. You see what I'm trying to say? So the stuff that I criticized Trump on during the campaign is because I thought it got in the way of a shared goal. If it didn't get in the way of the shared goal, I still may not like it. I still may disagree, but that's largely a subjective situation at that moment because we're in the middle of the competition right now. And so there's no point in airing that just so 25 of you think I haven't sold my soul when it could cause a lot more collateral damage. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
Well, now that we're in the second half of the year and they have not been as buttoned down, it has been sloppier. I think our commentary has largely reflected that. And it's because, again, we want this to be successful. It is nobody's self-interests, national interests, spiritual interests, as far as I can tell, are served by this presidency failing. Is it entirely possible that a failed presidency here and enough suffering may cause a great revival? That is possible. That it's those kinds of environments typically when revivals happen, not when things are going well, right? That is possible. However, what has happened more often in our history as a species, revival or cultural extinction? Which event has happened more often?
The latter.
The latter, and it's not even friggin' close. It's not even close. So while it is possible that Trump failing may cause enough people to say, you know what, we just can't trust the system at all. Now we have to turn to Jesus. We have no other hope, right? Get on our knees. That is possible. That may happen. Most of the time, though, when societies fall, that is not the outcome. They just fell. And since I don't know the future, I mean, if I knew the future, if the Lord said to me, hey, I need you guys to go through, I need to break you guys a little bit more, and then revival's coming in 27. If the Lord told me that and I saw like a vision of it, I'd probably behave accordingly, right? I'd have different analysis. But he hasn't told me that, and I don't have that vision. So I can only know what I know. And what I know is, historically, when societies collapse, they just collapse way more than they're reborn in the ashes of some kind of a revival. So given that, I can only act on what I know, and the preponderance of the evidence, there's that word again, the preponderance of the evidence is this thing called the Trump presidency failing doesn't benefit our worldview. As far as I can tell, with what I know, I'm struggling to find what any fringe benefits of the Trump presidency failing are. Is that fair?
Yes.
So I wanted to take a few minutes here at the top of the show and address that, especially because we're not going to be with you guys again. The next time we're with you, it's going to be January 5th of next year. Who knows how many drone strikes I'm going to be obsessed with between now and then. Okay. All right. A lot can go on in 2 weeks. A lot of drones. All right.
Put my phone on mute.
Yes. The ship may land. The mothership may land. We may even hear, take me to your leader. That may happen while we're gone these next 2 weeks. I don't know, All right. So I just wanted to address that one more time before we head out of here for the rest of the year.
How many emails are coming? Deace Grifter!
Yes, all the emails, all of them are, yes. I wouldn't mind being called a grifter so much if my paycheck reflected grifter rates.
I mean,
yeah, if I was getting paid grifter rates, I'd be like, well, I guess I got to just own this.
Should that be our New Year's resolution? Just let's get on that grift.
Indeed. All right, top 10 stories of the year. I'm curious as you guys unroll these, and I've not seen them. You guys put these together yourselves. You and Aaron collaborate on them. So Aaron, you first. How difficult was it to put this year's top 10 list together as compared to previous?
Well, it really wasn't that difficult, mainly because Todd did most of the heavy lifting this year. But he did a great job because I did my own work, and I couldn't really find a much better list proposal than what he sent. What is really interesting about this year, with maybe one or two exceptions, every single story on this year's top 10 is an actual story. Most years, you probably have picked up on this in years past, there's stories that are stories, but they're more themes of things that we've talked about a lot on the show or discourse that's happened in the broader zeitgeist. This year, it's pretty much just actual, real, concrete stories, which is, I think, kind of a refreshing thing. And by the way, this year, do it live. Do it live. Thing sucks. We're doing it live. I'm reading them live. So these are actual stories, not just themes this year. And I think that's kind of an interesting note on the top 10.
Did you do that on purpose, Todd, as you were compiling this?
No.
Okay.
This was.
It shows you, I think, sorry, Todd.
No, please.
What this shows you is that this really was a newsworthy year.
Yeah.
And that you're not substituting concrete stories for themes of discourse.
Right on.
It's funny. It took me the longest I can remember to do yesterday's show. I came back to my list like 4 different times to finally complete it. But in terms of doing the top 10, which I did, is the first thing I did. Aaron, I think I gave you like 13 or something.
Yeah, and I only paired off a few of those.
Yeah, that I thought could be arguably put in there. They came to me very, very quickly. And like Aaron said, he said, no, that's pretty much what I came up with as well. Aaron and I are haunted, as you'll remember, by, what was it? It was the Afghanistan withdrawal. What year are we talking? 22?
21.
21.
Yep. Yep.
But see, you're always worried. Both of us did the list independently, and both of us managed to forget the Afghan withdrawal because in these years, my goodness, the pace of change and how you move on to the next thing, you can forget even big events. So apparently this time I got it right.
Well, let's begin. Fire away, Aaron. Top 10 stories of 2025.
Story number 10 on our top 10 stories of 2025. What shut down? In any other year, apparently, a 43-day government shutdown would be a lock for a top 5 story of the year, but 2025 wasn't an ordinary year thanks to competing intra-party political interests from the Democrats. The media was happy to act as if a shutdown wasn't actually happening for well over a month from October 1st till its conclusion in the middle of November, with a deal Democrats had previously turned down on numerous occasions in the process, which begs the question, if a government shuts down and nobody noticed it, is it really a shutdown at all?
It is fascinating because in the wee hours of your existence, Aaron, I mean, the political era where you and I came to maturity was the 90s with Rush and the Clintons, right? And this was really, until Monica Lewinsky, the 1995 government shutdown was the defining political event of that decade. Republicans had all the mo coming off the historic contract with America, sweep of Congress, the first time they had done that, I think, since right after World War II, since the 50s maybe. It had been about 40 years. They had all the mo, and we were heading into Christmas time, if I recall. I want to say it was mid to late November, like right before Thanksgiving. And they had finished the first 100 days, and it was a resounding success. They're getting positively, there's 2 types of Saturday Night Live parodies. The one where they're really trying to destroy and deconstruct the figure, and the one where they're just, poking good fun. Chris Farley was poking good fun at Newt Gingrich. He was lovable Newt. Okay. And then the legend is that they were bargaining with a weakened Bill Clinton, and that he went to, after he gave remember his State of the Union speech after that 94 election, February of 95. Remember how he opened it? The era of big government is over, is what Bill Clinton said. Remember this? And they were negotiating the final budget deal at the end of the year, and Bob Dole, Senate Majority Leader, and Speaker Gingrich were on Air Force One negotiating with Clinton. And the legend is that Bubba reportedly said to him, listen, you guys have to give me something. I have to have something. If you don't give me anything, I'm going to face a primary. I mean, I've done all the crazy stuff you guys want, all the stuff you promised. I signed it all in the law. You have to give me something. Otherwise, I face a primary from Jesse Jackson or somebody on my left. And presidents who get primaried by their own base never win re-election. And of course, Bob Dole wants to be president. He's getting ready to run the next year. And the legend is that they said no, refused to even give Clinton any kind of dub. They backed Bill Clinton, who had been pretty subservient to the Republican Congress up until that point all year long. They backed him into a corner where now his own survival instinct caused him to fight in ways he didn't want to. The White House went full bore, blaming the shutdown over the Thanksgiving weekend on the Republicans. I think it was Newsweek ran the cover, the Gingrich who stole Christmas. Do you remember this? Okay. And the die was cast. We were on the map had been reshaped, and we were on the way to a resounding Bill Clinton reelection. And ever since then, the conventional wisdom was Republicans lose government shutdowns. We can't have them. And so that means we're just negotiating against ourselves on the budget every single time. Democrats know we won't hit the button, so they don't have to negotiate, and we just do the time warp again and again and again and again, right?
Exactly.
So Trump tested that this time, and he successfully tested it. So I think we're going to get a political benefit out of it in the future. I don't know what political benefit out of it, though, he got. because we're kind of right back. We're going to be right back in the same situation here again in just a couple of months, right after the first of the year. So,
but also just the fact that it was like the Pulp Fiction John Travolta meme with him just wandering around high looking for Uma Thurman. Where is she? Like that analysis, we may have benefited something and Trump tested it, but describing that in no way matches the emotional tenor or the real knock them out, drag them out fight with real consequences that happened back in the day like that. I mean, Steve, Newt Gingrich, if he doesn't lose that fight, if he's probably running for and maybe winning president instead of George W. Bush. I mean, it changed the whole political course of things on the right.
Yes, it did. It absolutely did. It did. Yeah. This one was way longer.
This changed, yeah.
And it changed basically nothing. Right.
Bizarre.
Number 9.
Department of Crash out efficiency. Much had been made, probably rightfully so, about the role tech magnate Elon Musk played in the election of President Trump back in 2024. With the inauguration of Trump came the ceremonial creation of the Department of Government Efficiency. It was just basically a renaming of an Obama-era government entity. That almost immediately began to uncover what most serious observers suspected: reams upon reams of nearly unfathomable graft, corruption, and abuse. And Doge's remedy was always the same: slash, cut, and claw back. That solution seemed to go by the by many times thanks to courts and an incompetent governing majority in Congress. And Elon Musk went from being a fixture in the Oval Office earlier this year to crashing out in the summer, accusing Trump and White House officials of not being serious about cutting government, accusing Trump of being involved with Jeffrey Epstein and some other accusations. Yes, that really happened earlier this year. It appears, though, Musk has been efficient in getting back into Trump's good graces, as the two have been spotted together on at least a couple of occasions, and it's apparent they've made up. But the Department of Government Efficiency, Doge, went from being a fixture in the news for much of the spring to now being relegated to ghost or legend status, depending on whom you ask.
So the thing is that this event told me more about Musk than maybe anything other than the buying of maybe even the buying of Twitter itself. And let me explain why. We were clearly in a moment. If you look at the chain of events that led up to Musk buying Twitter, right? The mass banning of people for telling the truth about COVID, the mass banning of people for refusing to do pronouns and stop dead naming, as it's called, not the least of which was the Babylon Bee. I mean, if you wanted to do a flow chart, how did Donald Trump win re-election? A lot of people would say, well, I mean, when they tried to put him in prison and he took that shot, and that was a pivotal moment, clearly. That changed the course of the primary. It basically canceled the entire Republican primary at that point, right? But I would argue that might be how he won the nomination, but that doesn't necessarily mean he gets to the presidency. I would say step A to how Donald Trump reacquired the presidency was the Babylon Bee getting banned by Twitter. Because that was the final step of inspiration that caused Elon Musk to become the Gutenberg of this era, okay? But here's the thing. That was a very dark time. That could be a kind of thing where a guy says temporarily, I got to step in and do something here. Or he's maybe even reacting emotionally, but in a good way, right? He's pissed off, fired up. Let me do something about this. Okay. Then you buy the thing and now you're running the thing and you're like, oh boy. Right. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Then you get involved in the campaign and you're involved in the campaign at an intimate level. I mean, how many Trump rallies was he at the end? He's at Mar-a-Lago sitting with Trump on election night, right? Okay. And, then you get to name your own department here and they create one for you. All right. And then they sell you out, if we're just being honest. They sold you out. For him to come back and stay engaged. I mean, I don't know if you guys look at the stuff he's even posting at the end of the year here at the time that we are talking about this, but he's going harder after the trainee stuff now than maybe he ever even has before.
Yeah. And
he was going hard after it before. I mean, he's just making a definitive position. You just aren't a human being, basically, is what he is saying if you believe in this stuff. Okay.
He's talking about the tragic lowering of birth rates. Like,
yes.
He's the Pope or something.
Yes. So the incentivization structure for him is over. And now you're getting a shot at what this guy's actual convictions are. There's no incentive. He's lost share points from Tesla. His cars were getting burnt to the ground at the start of the year, right? Okay. I can still drive around.
Life is being threatened.
Yeah, I can still drive. Remember the whole thing with the gal that was, who's the influencer that he got pregnant in that controversy? I can't even remember her name, right? Ashley something or other. Do you remember that? Okay.
Oh, yeah. I forgot about that.
So, I mean, dude, we can still drive around Des Moines. I still see cars in Des Moines that are Teslas and the bumper sticker on the back. Like the car, not the owner, stuff like that.
This year started January 1st or 2nd.
That's right. The Sugar Bowl bombing. The Sugar Bowl bombing was
Trump
a Tesla.
Tower.
Yeah.
And then the Trump Tower one. Yeah, I forgot all about that. So the incentivization structure for him to continue on just, hey, it's cool. I get to, I'm a rich guy. Let's see what running for president's like, vicariously through this other rich guy, or I just got pissed off and decided to do something. All that meandering temporary incentivization structure is all dead. It's all gone. And now, if anything, the incentivization structure goes the other way. I mean, what did he say last week? Maybe I should have just, after helping Trump get elected, just gone back to Tesla and stayed out of all this. Okay. Yet you can see he can't stay out of it all. You can see he can't. And I think now you're actually seeing what his real convictions are. And it will be very fascinating now. It's been fascinating already, his story arc to this point. But I think it gets really fascinating moving forward now. Number 8.
Number 8, Zoran the Destroyer. The election of Zoran Mamdani as mayor of the nation's largest city touched on so many key issues of the zeitgeist of the country. On one hand, New York City, in less than a generation after the largest Islamic terror attack of the 21st century, struck it to its core. Well, the city turned around and elected an Islamist to lead it. On the other hand, New York City, a symbol of American prosperity, wealth, and financial dominance, decided that a rabid communist is best to lead the city into the mid-2020s. Running a slickly produced digital campaign and sporting a reassuring smile with a slightly cocked head, New Yorkers, particularly those born overseas, as the data and polling showed, flocked to Mamdani and his radical ideas like promises of $8 halal food, free public transportation, rent freezes, and government-run grocery stores. Mamdani is one of two things: a cautionary tale in the making, a lesson for the rest of the country of the dangers of electing an Islamist, or the future of the country. Although those things could be one and the same.
So here's the thing. This is everything you listed is why I said he's the winner of the year. He has successfully reforged the Democratic Party officially now into his image. It is an Islamist party. That's what it is. And this one will be very quick. This is just the most logical next step of devolution. You post Giuliani. I think we talked about this at the time of the election, guys. Post Giuliani, here's where New York went. It tried technocratic Republican corporatism with Michael Bloomberg. It then went to a literal Sandinista who is an incompetent, mixed the Weimar Republic with Marxism, and that was Bill de Blasio, basically. Okay. And then it went to just your average, everyday corruptocrat in Eric Adams. There's only two places to go. Well, let me rephrase that. There's only one place to go: revival. It's just a matter of what religion we're reviving here. You've tried corporatism. You've tried communism. You've tried corruptocratism. What's left? Revival.
It's up to you, New
York, New York. Yes, I mean, that's that. It was always going to be revival. The question is, whose religion's getting revived? It's the most logical conclusion of the year is to end up in this place. And that's why you see him. He is not couching his language at all. He views what he believes as aspirational because it's revival. That's what it is. Just a different religion is getting revived. All right, we'll pick up top 10 stories of the year as selected by Todd and Aaron. I think we're on number 7 when we come back.
That's correct.
All right, we'll get through those, and then we'll take a look back and likely laugh at my top 10 predictions for this year and how many of those did not come true. We'll find out. All that and more coming your way on the Year in Review Part 2, final show of the year here next.
The Steve Deace Show.
right, back here on the Steve Deace Show. Final show of the year. And we are counting down the top 10 stories of the year as determined by Todd and Aaron. We are at number 7. Aaron, you may fire when ready.
The deportations will continue until morale improves. The official numbers of how many foreigners have left the country is generally up for debate, but one thing that's not is that the deportations must continue until morale improves, and we're in a much different place, for sure. A world's better place than we would have been in terms of deportations than if Kamala Harris would have been elected as president last November. Border czar Tom Homan recently said he's looking forward to adding 10,000 new immigration and customs enforcement officials. He says the number of deportations and self-deportations is in the hundreds of thousands this year, maybe even into the millions.
Well, this has been one of the biggest success stories of this administration this year, but it still has not been enough, and it's not their fault. But there just has to be an immigration moratorium. There just has to be. You've got water in the basement, and you're working harder than ever to clear that water out, but you didn't turn the pipe off. You didn't close the hole. So the water just keeps coming in. Okay? Maybe a better analogy is you're working harder than ever before, and you did turn the pipe off, and you did turn the spigot off, and you did close the hole, but you're underwater. So it's going to take a minute. And you probably combine those two analogies, and now it's analogous to the situation that we are in. There's been a literal invasion of this country. We have to have an immigration moratorium and a closed border to even have a shot of undoing the damage that was just done here. Number 6.
Number 6, Operation Midnight Hammer. If you're within a 14,000-mile round trip of the United States, are an enemy of the United States, and possess industrial or technological infrastructure that threatens the interests of the United States, you're not safe. On June 22nd, and in conjunction with Israel's Operation Rising Lion against Iran, the United States carried out what is likely the most technologically and logistically sophisticated air operation in the history of warfare, as stealth bombers departed an airbase in Missouri, flew nonstop 7,000 miles into the heart of Iran, struck multiple nuclear infrastructure targets, flew back home 7,000 miles, and Iran had no clue what was happening until the bombs hit their targets. The stunning operation not only sent a message to Iran, but every would-be enemy of the United States. We'll blow you up.
This was a perfectly executed foreign policy objective. Beginning with the precision of the Israeli strike against Iran, which set the stage for this. And at the time I said that if Israel had not pulled off with the precision they did, I don't think Trump would have signed on for the finishing move. I think he would have just said, politically, too much damage here, we're walking away. So the Israelis were involved in stage 1, which gave, I think, Trump the political capital and clearance he needed to hit the button to be the finishing move here and come off the top rope. And the devastating precision combined now, done by both the Israelis and Americans here, here's the thing you need to understand about Middle Eastern cultures. They are honor-based. They respect strength. And if Israel had looked weaker against Iran, there was less likelihood that Saudi Arabia, Egypt, and Jordan would stay committed to the alliance. But because they looked so strong, they stayed committed because they respect strength. Because we went in there and set Iran's nuclear program back to the Stone Age, the Arab coalition respects strength. They stayed united to the point they helped defend Israel from Iran's very response. So, this kind of signal to me, the first 6 months of the Trump administration were really exhilarating, if I'm being honest with you. Like I was joking on the show yesterday, I flirted with optimism. My optimism kept texting me. She kept sliding into my DMs. I almost called her back, okay? And this was like the pinnacle event of that optimism.
Yeah, one of your top 10 commands of political warfare, always go on offense. There was a lot of offense.
Yes. We got up Monday morning and the vice president's office afterwards was calling us saying, hey, he'd love to come on your show and talk about this. Because this was a sweeping victory, right? Okay. And this seems to be the coup de grace of the first half of the year, was this event and how flawless and devastating it was against Iran. And it does sort of seem like since this event, the momentum has kind of gone against us a little bit.
So what do you think? We're halfway through. Does it?
These are good. These are very good. Yeah. Number 6.
We're down to number 5.
Oh, number 5.
now.
My bad.
The American Pope. After Pope Francis passed away in April, the College of Cardinals descended upon the Vatican for their conclave to select a new pope. On May 8th, this happened right in the middle of our show. They shocked the world by selecting the first pope born in the United States. Robert Prevost selected the papal name Pope Leo XIV. Early reviews on the new pope's previous writings and commentary were mixed, to say the least. But as his tenure has worn on, it appears he's less a Leo and more a Francis light at best, leading us to wonder whether his selection in the aftermath of last year's events in the United States wasn't a mere coincidence.
I don't think it was a coincidence. I think he's already worse than Francis. I think he has already more and intentionally, directly injected himself into our political process. And in the early, remember, Francis didn't start out with this character arc. Slowly but surely, it kind of unraveled, and you saw more and more of some of the progressive simping, and then it kind of reached a crescendo in his latter years. This guy's been on the job for 6 months. He could not wait to inject himself. Your prediction that you made for the new year, that he's going to time a United States visit purposefully in order to try to interfere with the midterm elections, that was breathtaking. I thought, holy crap, you're right about that. Why didn't I think of that? You're exactly right. That's exactly what he's going to do. And I think it is 100% not a coincidence. If you think it's a coincidence, the first American pope just so happened to be given that position right at the time that Trump wins, largely on a platform of mass deportations and a restoration of national identity and traditional values. If you think that's a coincidence, you're on your 15th booster. It's not a coincidence. It's cosmic. There's my alliteration again. It's not a coincidence. It is cosmic. He's worse than Francis already. It took about a month for him to end up where Francis was at the end. Francis did not start out like this. He's worse already and going to get worse, sadly. Number 4.
Liberation Day. On April 2nd, the Trump administration declared Liberation Day and enacted a series of tariffs on basically every continent, every landmass, every tiny little island in the middle of nowhere under the sun. The administration sold those sweeping tariffs as a way to grow government revenue and or leverage for better trade deals. Mass COVID-level panic ensued over the next few days early in April as old school freedmen enjoyers melted down. But the sun came up and kept coming up day after day. Now at the end of the year, if you were always anti-tariff, you probably think you have some ammunition to support your skepticism. If you just wanted to give this new plan on global trade a chance, you probably feel somewhat vindicated, as some of the most breathless declarations of imminent economic cataclysm never really panned out. Either way, the China problem still looms, and it's tough to say who has the upper hand.
The conversation we had about this on Glenn Beck's year-end special last week with me and Glenn and Liz Wheeler and Jason Buttrell, I was very fascinated by it because Glenn, and Jason's a former DOD analyst. He's Glenn's chief researcher, and since he's Glenn's researcher, he's very futuristic oriented, and because Glenn is very futuristic oriented, and listening to Glenn really believe in this stuff. From the perspective, who's the guy again? The maestro, the guru whose stuff you read?
Oh, Stephen Mirren.
Yeah. Glenn sounds just like that Stephen Mirren stuff you had me read. Okay. And it's very clear that he believes in this from the perspective that you believe in it, Todd. A resetting, it's not meant as some ideological, economic, philosophical exercise, but just it's meant as a cudgel to induce a paradigm shift of how the global economy is operated from the outside in instead to the inside out, right? But Glenn talking about how this is going to have benefits, 10 to 20 years down the road. A massive paradigm shift is happening here. He may be right about that. What I don't know is the American people don't have the patience for that. That I know. In fact, you know what? Now I think about it, I'm going to do something I may have never done in the history of the show. I think I'm going to disagree with Glenn. Not because he's not right about that, but because there's a variable. He's not right about that in a vacuum. But there's a variable here, the people. The people won't let that happen. We don't have the attention span to sit here and say, hey guys, we're just going to take a generation off from the American dream here and just rent instead of own a home. And we're just going to do 2 part-time jobs instead of 1 full-time job. You see what I'm saying? That's just not happening. And instead, you know what I hear now when you tell me something's going to take 10 to 20 years to fix? What I hear is a commercial for universal basic income. That's what I hear. We don't have 20 years. We didn't really even have 20 months. By like Labor Day next year, there's got to be definitively better economic and economic conditions in America and affordable economic conditions, because there's lots of metrics that things are economically better. But they have not reached a granular level that the average American is feeling that yet. And if you can accomplish that, then the people will give you a long period of time to turn an aircraft carrier around, right? But right now, they're more worried about the iceberg straight ahead than turning the aircraft carrier around. In fact, they think they hit the iceberg. So you don't get permission to do long-term things in exchange for short-term suffering by the American people today. We're not that people anymore. And if this can't get fixed by the midterms next year, the Democrat nominee in 28 is going to openly run on universal basic income, I promise you. And that person's going to tie it to AI and all this other crypto. Hey, while the elites are doing their thing and having fun and playing the markets like day traders, what are they doing for you? You need money. See what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. This stuff is like a commercial for UBI. The American people are too far in debt, too godless, too desperate. They're not giving you 20 years to disrupt the paradigm. They're not going to do that.
Even if that analysis by Glenn is like the only right answer.
Yes.
And the people have 0 answers or just the wrong ones, your point still stands.
Yeah, you still have to account for human nature as a variable.
Still stands, yes.
You still have to account for that, yes.
Story number 3, Trump 2.0 or new Trump. President Trump's second term got off to an absolutely roaring start. So far in 2025, Trump has signed over 200 executive orders, but some of the most potent and important executive orders were signed in the first 3 months, with some touching basically every area of life that government intersects with. The weaponization of federal government, DEI, immigration. It was a tour de force of flooding the zone. His cabinet also filled out quite nicely with figures like Marco Rubio, having served capably as Secretary of State. HHS Secretary Robert F. Kennedy Jr. started his fight against entrenched interests in the public health sector. Secretary of War Pete Hegseth has served, from our vantage point, quite capably. It was a raucous start. But thanks to unwillingness and or incompetence from Republicans in Congress, after the passage of the big, beautiful bill, it seems progress or momentum has stalled at times. There's times we find ourselves saying, even after 10 years, that's just Trump. There's times we say, that's good Trump. But this next year will show whether this is new Trump like new Coke, or whether this is the Trump 2.0, dialing it up to 11 we saw the first half of this year. I really believe it was the line of demarcation. You said it was Operation Midnight Hammer. It seems to me after the passage of the big, beautiful bill after Independence Day, that's where this has been like a whoopee cushion in terms of momentum compared to the first 6 months, which it's hard to beat that, I understand.
Yep. I mean, I think that was worded so well, it was self-containing, had its own analysis. I can't really add much to what you guys have there. And we just don't know the answer. And the answer largely comes down to, you ever heard the expression during a basketball game? No, nice shot, right? Okay, guy takes a shot you didn't want him to take, but it went in. Okay, well, we're not going to refuse points, So it likely comes down to, did the ball, this time next year, are we looking ahead? Or how many impeachment attorneys are we hiring? Okay? Just that simple. As we're leaving here next year, where's impeachment of Trump and Hegseth and RFK Jr. rank in my top 20 or top 10 predictions for 2027, right? That's going to tell us everything. That's going to answer this and how the midterms and the whole year went, is that right there. All right? And so we need some of these shots by Trump that you're like, I don't know if that's the best shot we ought to be taking right in this situation. We just need him to Michael Jordan some of these things and they just go in. There's not a play. Hey, get it to 23. All right, get out of the way. We need some of those shots just to go in. I mean, there's just no other way to put it,
He needs to pick up more shifts at McDonald's is what you're saying, and do some of those photo ops.
Now the good news is he's been kind of in his own mercurial way. He has kind of a give me the ball and get out of the way. He's been that kind of a player in the past. All right. But we're going to need that. All right. There's what we're up against now and the clock and the crunch we're up against. I kind of scoff now at so many of our colleagues who said, well, why do this one big, beautiful bill? Just do a bunch of small bills. Guys, they loaded up so much grift and look how hard it was to get one of these passed. Could you imagine if they tried to go through that legislative process 4 or 5 times? How the hell would that even work?
Do you even
right?
Congress, bro?
Yeah. I mean, he's next year, frankly, just give him the ball, clear out, and see what he can do. Because the organic process, within the system, within the offense, we're not going to win the game. We're going to lose. We just have to give him the ball and go get him, kid. That's what we're going to have to do.
All right, we can get this next one in before the break. Number 2, the future of the right. Fault lines have started to heave. After Tucker Carlson gave a largely powder-puff interview to young political commentator and overall sleazebag Nick Fuentes, the platforming of Fuentes by Carlson was less an issue for most people than the perceived coddling Carlson engaged in during the course of the interview, failing to push back on or examine multiple bat-crap crazy-sounding things Fuentes said, like how he admires Joseph Stalin and other matters. Carlson did gently push back on Fuentes' anti-Semitism, saying on multiple occasions it's not a Christian teaching to judge people by groups and that God judges individuals. This flap spilled over into a larger issue after Heritage Foundation President Kevin Roberts published a message in support of Carlson and free speech generally, an event that caused a great deal of consternation within the preeminent conservative think tank. Whether you're old school Republican establishment lying in wait, the MAGA Trump loyalist, or a younger individual who simply hates the left, this flap illuminated longstanding fissures on the right. And what's left to be determined is whether this is a movement going through growing pains or a stillbirth.
Excellently said. Excellently said. And when Charlie was alive, the number one show was somebody who had a worldview anchor. So it gave him a limiting principle. Now what we have is the number one show is Tucker Carlson, who does not have that worldview anchor and clearly doesn't have any limiting principles. So that's why there's really high highs and really low lows. With Charlie, it was just right here every day. With Tucker, it's here, it's there, it's here, it's there. Hour 2 is next. All right, back here with Hour 2 on our final show of 2025. I'm Steve Deace with Todd and Aaron McIntyre. Let us know what you think about what we think via the stevedeace.com inbox by emailing the show, steve@stevedeace.com. That's DEACE. Like us on Facebook, Me, We, and Gab. Follow me at Steve Deace Show on X, Instagram, and TikTok. You can also find me on our new YouTube channel, at Deace Show on YouTube. That's at Deace Show on YouTube. And then finally, if you wouldn't mind, leave us a 5-star review on the podcast platform that you prefer. Thank you for those of you who have. Tens of thousands of you have. We appreciate each and every one of those. You can also hit subscribe or follow, if the case may be, if you're on Apple iTunes. And that's how you're going to know that every time we do one of these new shows, it's right there in your feed. So thank you for that as well. I want to go back to story number 2 because I ran out of time there and I just want to close the loop on something. I think it is very clear. You know, it's funny. One of the things that Charlie and I noticed getting close this year is despite our personality differences, we were very much alike. Deeply committed evangelicals who have differences with Catholicism, but didn't disdain it, found some of it to be curious, some of it interesting, more interesting than our own traditions, for example. We had those conversations. We were deeply adamant that there had to be room to question Israeli policy without being called an anti-Semite. We both deeply were adamant that the Groyper anti-Semitic stuff cannot gain a foothold in the movement for the very reasons of what was said on the show on Friday by Keith Malinek last Friday, when he said, because of what Candace is doing now, it feels like we cannot ask legitimate questions that we might have about where Tyler Robinson came from and how he got the means to do what he did, right? Because now she's ruined it for everybody, right? If you let the Groypers in, if you think Nick Fuentes is your path to questioning Israeli policy, you're wrong. Legitimizing Nick Fuentes will have the opposite impact. It'll mean now every time you have something to say other than Israel's great, brought us some chocolate cake, okay, like an old Bill Cosby bit, you're automatically going to get, well, that's, of course, you're a Nick Fuentes Groyper then, right? That's why it can't happen. Because it takes away from the very critical thought you want to occur. It'll take that away. It'll just be used as a weapon against you moving forward. Todd would agree that both Charlie and I had a way unhealthy obsession with college football. I mean, we did a joint speaking engagement together once. We were backstage literally just watching the games and commenting on them. And then when they called us to the stage, we did not hear. They're like, oh, wait, we got to turn our phones off. All right, we were vast difference in age. I was old enough to be Charlie's dad. And so vast difference in age, vast difference in personalities, way more patient, way kinder than me. But we shared a lot of perspectives and views of things in common. And one of the things I can tell you about Charlie behind the scenes is he sought accountability. In fact, if you guys will indulge me for a second, come very close to your speaker and listen very carefully to what I'm about to say, because I think maybe I'm going to articulate the concerns I have about where Tucker is going right now in these last few minutes of this year, maybe better than I have this entire year up until this point. And maybe because he kind of has assumed the mantle of Charlie. This is the biggest show we have on our side now. It's the show that's the most talked about. It's the most influential show. It's the show everybody wants. Now this is the show everybody wants to get on, when before Charlie's was the show everybody wanted to get on. So what's the difference between these two men? Well, Tucker's about a little older than me, so he's also was old enough to be Charlie's dad. Charlie, I can tell you from behind the scenes, Charlie sought after accountability. Charlie had a home church. It's the church where the Freedom Nights were held. You know, I used to say on my show a lot, you can tell a lot about someone running for office by how involved their family members are in their race. I cannot think of a single time that a guy ran for office and his wife and kids were not on the trail with him that he turned out to be a good candidate. Not a single time. Not a single time. They know him best. Who knows you better than your wife or kids, Todd?
Nobody.
They've seen you with your pants down, figuratively and literally, right? They've seen you at your best, seen you at your worst, right?
Yes.
So they know. It's kind of that way with your own church. I mean, if your own church won't let you get up and talk, if your own church won't let you get up and speak, if your own church won't let you get up and address people, why should other churches do it, right?
Yes.
Freedom Night was done at Charlie's home church. But beyond that, does anybody know what local church Tucker goes to? He may. I don't know. I'm asking. I don't know the answer. Do they do events at that church? Does Tucker speak there? I mean, those are questions that I think should be asked. Furthermore, Charlie sought even more accountability. Charlie went to Rob McCoy, who was one of the brave pastors during COVID, asked him to basically just be his mentor, his accountability, personal pastor. Hold me accountable. Let me confess things. Rob loved Charlie so much he entrusted his own son to Charlie. That's a hell of a amount of trust, is it not?
It is.
And Mikey was one of Charlie's best buddies. Where does Tucker go for accountability? Who does he call? It was well known. Once you got into Charlie's inner circle, it was well known the role that Rob McCoy played. Well known. Everybody knew. Who does this for Tucker? Who does he call? Jason Whitlock, for example, another guy who likes Tucker a lot. Tucker, I think, has done Jason's event in Texas the last couple of years. about the same age. Also, both like Tucker had a way late in life awakening to Christianity, right? You know who you see on Jason's show? Jason brings his own pastors on. He brings other pastors on that he submits to. I want to hear from. Question me, am I right? Who's Tucker holding himself accountable to? What church does he belong to? Charlie took one of America's best theologians, Frank Turek, took him with him on the road. Frank Turek is the guy in white that some of you thought was sending hand signals to the Mossad to shoot Charlie. It was Frank Turek, who then was holding Charlie's lifeless body in his arms on the way to the hospital in the back of that sedan as he was bleeding out. Who's Tucker brought in? Hey, I'm not going to sit here and act like I got all the answers. So as I'm questioning this guy, hey, let me bring you on with me. See what who does this? Who does this? Todd, what's your job here? Tell the audience, what truly, really is your job? Not everything you do. You book the show, right? You edit all the content I publish, books, anything. Nothing with my name on it gets published without your editing approval, correct?
Right.
Literally nothing.
Right.
Even if I'm writing a blurb to a book to endorse it, nothing. There is nothing with my name on it that gets published without your assent, your approval, right?
Right.
Nevertheless, though, that's not really your job. What's your job?
I'm an ombudsman, but not in a far broader, more spiritual sense of the term. It is about ultimately being a direct line of accountability that is constantly pushing the best side of you and sending you warning signals if the worst part comes along. And
you stopped me the other day as we were walking out of here with something you were concerned about and said, hey, you got a minute? I want to address something. Did you not just do that just the other day?
Right.
Yeah. Who does that for Tucker? Again, I'm not saying no one does, but does anyone know? Because from the outside in, if you had to guess, what accountability mechanisms are in place in Tucker's career and personal life? Do they just the meandering of his rhetoric? I mean, one day it's Lee Strobel with an incredible conversation on the gospel, and the next day it's some hack named Daryl Cooper to reinvent Adolf Hitler. How do you get from these places? Just based on what you know about being a man in this age, and we're the same generation as Tucker.
Yeah.
Would you just guess from the outside looking in the variance, how all over the place this is? Would you guess there's a very tight local church presence, accountability mechanism at work in Tucker's personal life?
It seems likely the answer is no.
That's the perfect answer. We don't know. But it seems likely the answer is no.
And it's not because, and I'm the one, we've had these conversations, and I've been the most pro-Tucker in having unconventional conversations because the old way of gatekeeping was honestly so unproductive, if not rotten. It was always, and take Tucker out of the equation. Steve has been telling you for a while, there's going to be strange bedfellows. And as it applies to Tucker, I thought that was the side to bet on. But if he needs some, I would have still been that guy per what Steve is talking about. When Tate Brothers come along, why? Like cost benefit analysis. What fruit is coming from this?
Right.
Not necessarily, and maybe there is some. But I just don't, it doesn't seem like it is clear at all now because the last couple months they weren't unpredictable. Maybe you take a bet on something and it goes sideways and you do a mea culpa, but the mistakes here, you go take Nick Fuentes onto your show and you do a softball interview. This was the most predictable outcome there was, and there's not a close second, and he did it anyways. Why?
Why would you waste? Here's the thing. Charlie was very concerned with that account. Why did he put that accountability in place? Because he didn't want to be disqualified for the prize. He didn't want to cast pearls on the swine. He wanted to hear, well done, good and faithful servant at the end. He understood everything he had belonged to the Lord, and he wanted to hear at the end, enter into the joy of your master. You have been a good steward. You didn't waste it. It just seems to me Tucker has just wasted political capital of his on stuff, on nothing. It's the last day of the show, and I'm back from America Fest. So let me say this now. On purpose, I said this to you guys privately. I'm going to say this for the first time publicly. And on purpose, I did not say it publicly before America Fest because we have a lot of the same friends and it's a difficult situation and I didn't want to make it tougher than it already is. But to sit there and have Candace Owens at your Christmas party as she is absolutely smearing the legacy of our mutual friend Charlie and his wife, I don't understand that. I just don't. And it bothered me greatly, to be honest with all of you. And I'm not alone. If Tucker Carlson does not get some obvious limiting principles at work in his ministry, for lack of a better description or calling, look at the collateral damage it caused the second half of this year. We'll get an entire year of that. And it'll be right up against the fact when in an election we have to win. He bears immense amount of responsibility. And if you want to be the guy that's just asking questions, that's even more important to understand that. Again, during COVID, we didn't just sit here and ask questions. We brought you evidence. There's all kinds of anti-scamdemic voices that I've never put on this show. Why? Because I wasn't sure they were Daryl Cooper crackpots or not. And I couldn't risk it. Because if we got anything wrong, we were disqualified. All the previous work we did the day before, totally disqualified. So, in the final hour of the final show, do me a favor. Pray earnestly for Tucker Carlson. Pray earnestly that he will truly understand the responsibility God has placed in his lap. And it requires more than just a magical mystery tour of fascinations. Dr. Caligari's, cabinet of curiosities. He's swinging the scepter now. He's got to be better than this. He has to. Or a lot of collateral damage gets injected and a lot of people and credibility suffer. Have we not seen some evidences of this year?
Yes, undeniably so.
I think I've said enough on that topic. We can move on. Let's finish up. Number one story of the year.
Number one story of the year is Charlie Kirk, the American martyr. His murder that everyone saw prompted a number of moving tributes, including one of the best, I thought, from the White House. And I think it's appropriate given the show's theme verse this year.
Only in America is it possible to say, you know what, I don't like the way the country is going, and to do something about it. Take that risk. Take that leap of faith. Stay involved. Trust God and act obediently. Romans 12:2 verse. That God will use all things for good for those who love him. It's bigger than you. I want you to remember that. It is bigger than you. It's bigger than me. You are here to make somebody else's life better, the pursuit of liberty and freedom. You know what gives me strength? The hundreds of thousands of you that say, Charlie, keep going.
1 Corinthians 5 and 15. So that's all pretty amazing evidence, not just intra-biblical evidence, but extra-biblical evidence that Jesus Christ was a real person. He lived a perfect life. He was crucified, died, and rose on the third day, and he is Lord and God of all.
Don't you think that's the legacy of Charlie Kirk, that in his death, the most powerful seat of power in the world produces a memory of you that is a crystal clear presentation of the gospel? It's obviously the number one story of the year.
That was terrific. I don't really have anything to add. That was terrific. You guys could not have worded that last one better. And the connection of the two things that you made there. Incredible. I don't know that I said this at the time, but thank you to the White House for putting that out. And thank you to you guys for resetting that. That was terrific.
That September sucked. It really did.
You know, can I say something as a follow-up? Were you going to say something or are you finished? Go ahead. I'm sorry.
But it's pretty incredible that over and over again, Charlie's lights shine so brightly that people just could not mistake why he did what he did. It was all for the sake of the gospel.
Mm-hmm.
And everybody knows that. And everybody knows that's why they shot at him and not a lot of us. Not to say that we're not doing our best, but you get my understanding. Hell really was threatened by that guy.
Let me just close this segment with this, because I think it'll tie back to what I just said about the difference when your leader is Tucker compared to Charlie. Tucker, if you ever see this, I have a question for you. If unbelievably, sadly, and tragically, because you are in many respects the leader now. You are the one carrying the big platform now. And should the enemy feel as threatened by you as he was by Charlie, and should he act upon you sadly and tragically as he did upon Charlie, what would be the lasting legacy compilation of your work we would see, that you would want us to see? I interviewed Andrew Tate, but didn't ask him about, raping Romanian girls. I stood there rubbing my chin like this is the most fascinating thing I've ever thought of. Maybe I didn't realize that Hitler was misunderstood in World War II and Churchill was really the bad guy. Wow, tell me more. Oh, wow, you mean Christians are safer in Qatar than they are in Israel? Well, by golly, let's just move the Church of the Holy Sepulchre there and just go vacation there every, year at Easter. Is that really what you want for a compilation? Because I don't think you do, but I also don't think you know what you want. I don't. Man, a lot of us are going to continue to suffer until you do. I know you a little, like you a lot, but I'm not beholden to you for some 20, 30-year-old friend. And I don't care if I ever get booked on your show. Someone's got to tell you the truth. You're in danger of blowing it, man. And not just for yourself, but for a lot of us. Now you tell me, as my accountability guy, was that going too far?
Not only was it not going too far, that was the perfect way to reach a man who may not want to be reached, to ask him, this is the time of the year, you went Christmas Carol. You took him on a tour and you asked him to look at the ghost of Christmas future, and what it's going to feel like. And we know the power of that story, and may Tucker understand it as well. How do you want this thing to end?
All right, now that I've probably taken myself way too seriously, we've made it to the end. That was a great compilation of stories, and I think you guys even put them in the right order. Now let's take a look back at what I thought was going to happen this year. My top 10 predictions for 2025, the annual crystal ball that we lay out for you at the beginning of every year on this show. You'll get 2026's on January the 5th when we return. A couple of them you've already gotten because Glenn Glenn put a gun to my head and said, I demand that you come on this massive audience of mine and say your name and tell people what you think. And I did not want to do it, of course. But in the interest of being a team player, I relented. And so a couple of them are already out there, but you'll probably forget them by January the 5th. So Aaron, let's go ahead and get embarrassed. All right.
Number 10, Superman will be the highest grossing film at the box office.
It's going to look like it's probably going to finish third behind Wicked and the Avatar movie. The Avatar movie, a lot of its box office will actually be next year. See what I'm saying? Because it comes out at the end of December. But it looks like it's going to finish probably third, not number one. So no point, half point. What do you think?
No point.
No points.
No points. All right.
And what's the word? Like 2 years ago, what was like 3.5 points? Wasn't that like the bad year?
Yeah. There's been years where we've decided. I mean, dude, to be honest with you, if you get 4 of these right, that's pretty incredible.
Yeah, I think.
And there's been a couple of years recently I've gotten like 5.5 points. That's like really good. Yeah.
Okay.
All right. So no points. That is still though. That poster is still an incredible poster. It's still hanging up in my basement. That is still an incredible. That poster is better than the movie. All right, number 9, the Detroit Lions faced the Kansas City Chiefs in Super Bowl 59. I got half that right. Do I get a half point for the Chiefs?
Yeah. We've always given you a half point for half of the Super Bowl.
Yes.
Okay. All right.
Yes.
That was a crushing loss, by the way.
Oh, the playoff loss.
Yeah, to go 15-2 and then just not even show up for the playoff game and just get run out of the stadium. That one was tough to watch. Yep. All right. Number 8, a respected public figure will come forward to claim he was abducted by extraterrestrials and or communicated with them. I don't think that happened, although respected public figures are discussing these things constantly. Okay.
So you're doubling down on that.
Yeah, I'm going even further. And now I'm using the term du jour. See, notice because that's one of the predictions for next year that's been leaked, courtesy of Glenn. I'm not using the term aliens. The new term, non-human intelligence. Well, what is that? What is that non-human intelligence? What do you guys think it is?
Gavin Newsom.
Oh, very
Connor
good.
Stallions.
That might even be better. He does have the intelligence of a non-human intelligence, man. The dude thinks at 47 levels. But that one did not happen. It did not.
I wish one of those levels was the moral level. That would be nice.
I know. He committed the greatest grievous sins of all time. Number 7.
I think you get a half point for this.
Travis Kelce and Taylor Swift will finally marry in perhaps the biggest celebrity nuptials of the year. They did get engaged, right?
I'll give you a full point for that. I mean,
No.
you can't control the. Okay, fine.
A half point. He said he specified marry.
I did.
Okay,
and
half.
they only got engaged, but I do think it's enough for a half point.
So he has 1 point now?
He does have one
Okay.
full point. Yeah.
Okay.
All right.
We're almost halfway through. Let's see.
All right. There's one.
Uh-oh.
Number 6, Trump will end the war in Ukraine. I have to tell you guys, at this time last year, this might have been the most confident prediction I had on the entire list. I would have said, and the reason why is because I would have guessed Trump would have had a walk-away point long before this. Now, it was about a month ago that walk-away point was signaled to Ukraine, and all of a sudden they decided they needed to start talking and end the war, and even Zelensky said, blah, 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 blah. I mean, I would have figured that, especially when that meeting that Sarah Gonzalez talked about yesterday, that first meeting that Zelensky had at the White House last January. And Trump and Vance both essentially said, get the bleep out of here with that, right? Okay. I'd have told you, yeah, this thing's going to end here by Valentine's Day because the signal has been sent to Zelensky. The spigot is off. Instead, the Trump administration just kept giving him more and more and more and more money. As I've been pointing out for the last few weeks, we gave 115% more money to Ukraine this year in Trump's first year than we gave to Israel. And that is with assisting Israel in a military operation. So I would have predicted for sure this one was going to happen.
So should we just take away the point?
I almost feel like I do almost feel like I should give my point back.
Yes.
Because I mean, I was confident that this was going to go down. I mean, I'm stunned that Trump has just continued to go back to this well over and over again. I'm stunned. And you can always tell when the base is stunned, because you can always tell that the Trump influencer network, the stuff they will and won't defend, you can always tell. All right, like the stuff that they know the base wants, they go way out for that, and then the stuff they know the base doesn't want, they don't criticize it, but they don't go out for it. You know what I'm saying? Right? Like no Trump influencers out there saying, actually, the Ukraine war, Mitch McConnell was right. Nobody's doing that, right? No Trump influencers doing that. Instead, they're acting like the Ukraine war just doesn't even happen. This doesn't happen. Except for every few months when Trump gets pissed at Zelensky, then they blow it all up. That Trump's pissed, right? But then the rest of the time when he's writing checks, they never talk about it.
You've seen this pattern like 2 or 3 times. Basically, the United States tells Ukraine, here's what's going to happen. We're walking away. We are walking away.
Mm-hmm.
If you don't come to an agreement, do whatever you need to do, make the killing stop. And Ukraine says, okay, this is going to be really embarrassing for us. We're going to have to be really embarrassing. We don't want to do this. But it looks like we're about to happen. And then Zelensky meets with European leaders, and all of a sudden, no, we're going to keep fighting. That pattern has unfolded like 3 times already this year.
Yes,
most recently over Thanksgiving.
Yep.
So the United States just has to walk away. I don't understand why they haven't.
It's like that dysfunctional relationship, and you have to ask your buddy, is the sex really that good to get schmucked out like this that often in public, right? Because as guys, let's be honest, guys will stick around with a relationship way longer than they should if the sex is good or she is hot. There's a specific, is the sex good, how hot is she ratio to how much BS from a chick I will take. That's sad, not right. That's just how men are wired. I don't know what we're getting out of this. The sex with Ukraine cannot be that good. It just can't be. It can't be that good. And Zelensky's not that hot. I mean, doesn't look like he looks more dad bod than belly dancer these days. So I don't know what it is. Why can't we walk away?
Reverse Wakanda.
So I am giving my point back. Because I would have been the most confident that this would have happened. I mean, a year ago at this time, I'd have been 100% there will not be war in Ukraine at this time next year. 100% metaphysical certitude I've been that certain in it. Let's squeeze one more in real quick.
One more? All right. Let's go to this one. Number 5, at least. One scandal or controversy will be later proven credibly suspected to be an AI fake.
Now help me, did this happen at all?
No.
No? Okay.
Nothing that would rise to this level.
Okay.
Unless I'm just discounting that out of hand too.
Well, I don't know either. That's why I'm asking.
Yeah,
But I don't think so.
I can't think of one.
Now, there was just last week, there was a very convincing AI fake of Trump using a walker that was going around. It convinced me. It looked, I mean, you can kind of tell when images are AI, although it's getting harder and harder all the time. But that one was fake, but it didn't really, I mean, did you guys see that? Did it reach you?
No, I did not.
No.
So I wouldn't say that's a widespread story.
I might repeat that very same prediction for next year, to be honest with you, particularly with the election. On second thought, I think I'm going to do that, particularly with the election. 535 or 435 races for Congress, another, 50, 60 races for Senate. Lots of opportunities for fake AI race stories that you can't debunk until after the election, right? More in a moment.
The Steve Deace Show.
Maybe the greatest single Christmas carol. We can let that play a little bit.
Yeah, it's beautiful.
It's right up there with "O Come All Ye Faithful," for example. Those are probably my 2 favorites. Not to mention, this is the finest or the final bumper music we're going to play in 2025. The amount of theology in these lyrics, incredible.
And let's face it, you need a halftime pep talk because you got no points at halftime. 0.
In fact, I was so insulted by my team's performance. I took the touchdown we scored away. I gave it away. We didn't. We are not worthy of that touchdown. We are not.
And much respect for that. That's not.
I just thought it had to be done. There's credibility. Literally, my honor was at stake. I just thought it had to be done. All right, let's continue on. Looking back at my top 10 predictions, I technically got one full one right, but some of these have been so wrong, I just in good conscience couldn't take credit for it. So I'm at a big fat 0, which I've never had a 0, not even close to a 0 before in how many years we've been doing this.
Yeah, didn't we say like 3.5 was the lowest you've ever gotten?
Yes. All right, Aaron, let's continue.
Well, I have good news for you. We will finally learn what the government truly knows about the JFK assassination. I think that's a point. Now, we haven't been able to go through all of it, and most journalists have not, but they did release all of the JFK files, did they not, earlier this year?
As far as we know, I hate to go full Candace here, but I don't know how we could know
Did
if
you
they
have a dream
released them
about
all.
it?
I did. JFK came to me in a dream. I went back into the left, Deace. What do you think happened? All right. In all seriousness, we couldn't know if they really did release all the files, but as far as we know, they did. As far as we know, they did.
I'll give a point.
Okay.
Next, Trump's approval rating will hit 55% at one point, most likely during the first half of the year.
I do think this happened.
I'm looking at RCP, and it looks like the highest that he got was 50%. But that's the average. I don't know if you want to go for a specific poll.
Man, he hit close to 55, didn't he?
Yeah, I would. Let me.
Maybe Gallup would be better. I don't know.
For the year, RCP. Let's Google it. See, folks, this just goes to prove to you that I had no idea what my predictions were because I would have had this teed up if I did. All right, so let's see here. We should be able to go all the way back to the beginning of the year. They used to let you do that. All right, start of second term. Here we go. Yeah, Trump hit approval. All right, that's the average.
Hark the
Yeah, I wanted to look at. Thank you.
Angels
Thank you very much.
sing
Thank you.
glory to
I know that this was true early in the year. I
It feels
know
true.
that it was. All right, here we go. Now we're to historic numbers. Okay, here we go.
Peace on.
Yeah, keep singing, Todd. People like it. They love when you do that. They love when you do that.
And sinners reconcile.
All right, here's a 53 in March, a 54 in March.
I'll give it to you. 54.
There's another 54. All right, here we go. 55.
Yep.
And
Bing.
in early February. So right after his well, they don't. I don't know why. Do you guys know why the first year of a president can't be the State of the Union, but it's just a joint session of Congress? Is there some reason why that is?
I did the misnomer in the top 10s, or actually yesterday I mentioned the State of the Union.
Yeah, it should be called that. I don't know why, but in the first year of a president, it's just called a joint speech, but not a State of the Union. I don't know why, but it was right after he gave that speech. He hit 55. Okay. All right, so there's two.
All right, next, you're going to get another one here, I think. As the year goes on, managing the Republican coalition will prove to be Trump's biggest challenge.
Well, I mean,
Maybe you should get 2 points for that.
they may have just nuked his entire first term.
Let's give him. It's Christmas. We want to give him 2, Aaron?
Yeah.
Yeah. So back at 4.
All right, we're back at 4. I mean, they may have. It's not. There's a non-zero chance that we're looking back at this point 2 or 3 years from now, thinking we lost America right here. There's a non. I don't think the chances are high. I just don't think there's zero.
Yeah.
Okay.
And another point for you. The Trump-Musk partnership will be tested early and often.
Wow.
Yeah.
Good. 5.
I mean, that's just a lot of ego, a lot of accomplishment, a lot of alpha. And then in the backdrop, you've got the media doing the Yoko Ono thing, just pushing and needling the entire time, right? And even if they're not the one that push it over the brink, they're causing so many pressure points that are already built in that when one of them gets frustrated with the other, it just seemed eventually that was going to pop, right?
Yeah, look at you rally like that. I mean, you were decimated at halftime, but
Sang some Christmas carols.
solid.
You did.
Some solid theology, some integrity.
You gave me some
giving a point
accountability.
back, some accountability.
I internalized that.
What I'm saying is the total opposite of Michigan football. Is what I'm saying.
Or Tucker Carlson for that matter. Yes. Nice. All right, we are down to our. So what was my final score? 5. That's
Connor
pretty
Stallion's
respectable.
the Tucker Carlson of Michigan football.
I don't think they're anything alike, like at all. I don't. Now, I've spent more time with Connor than I have Tucker, but they in terms of personas, they could not be any more different. All right. Tucker is easily affable. You got to warm Connor up. Then he gets there. But I mean, Connor's a Marine. Okay. Square jaw.
Oh, don't sully now.
Okay. You know, or Navy. I'm sorry. I think I said Marine. He's Navy. All right. So square jawed. All right. He's about business, you know, intelligence analyst. Once you warm him up, he's pretty affable. But Tucker doesn't take much to get affable. He's kind of affable on a dime. So, all right. It's time now, Aaron.
Yes.
For our video clip of the year.
Indeed. And this one was pretty easy to narrow down.
That young man. On the cross, our Savior said, Father, forgive them, for they not know what they do. That man, that young man, I forgive him.
Now, this entire speech and really this entire event is unlike anything I've ever seen. And in some respects is unlike anything the world has ever seen. I mean, it is the most watched proclamation of the gospel in a single setting in all of human history. It is possible, we don't know this, but it's entirely possible that this is the people of this earth will hear the gospel in one single corporate setting until Jesus himself returns. That's entirely possible, which ought to blow your mind when you think about it. What ought to blow your mind more is who were the vehicles for this. Rob McCoy, Charlie's pastor, was up there. I think Frank spoke, if I remember right. And then who were the rest of the speakers? Erica, the vice president, the secretary of state, Stephen Miller, the president, Don Jr., the president's son. Very few people holding any liturgical or ecclesiastical station or position whatsoever. Because even the stones will cry out as Christ said. And as we close out and think about the state of things here now at the end, it is no coincidence, just like I said earlier, it is no coincidence that we finally got an American Pope right when we had an American president win not just an election, but a spiritual war. And he's going to directly counter that president's message with his platform. He's going to directly counter and challenge it. It's also not a coincidence that all of the various disagreements and divisiveness on our side that's been simmering under the surface, it's also not a coincidence that about 10 minutes after this event was held, all of that stuff went DEFCON 1 like a Thanos snap, just like that. Like it wasn't even a warm-up. It just, like a nuclear bomb went off. Not a coincidence. Over the course of my career, ladies and gentlemen, there have been very few times that I thought we legit have scared our enemy. That he fears us. Keep in mind, you're listening today to a guy who wrote a book with one of the enemy's minions taunting us. Made a movie based on said book where one of the enemy's minions taunts us, laughs at us, mocks us for how feckless we are, weak we are. So when I say we had the enemy on his heels, you know I really mean it. We had the enemy on his heels. The enemy was defecating bricks after this event. See, this whole thing between separation of church and state. Well, we don't do that in the church. Well, we can't get into these issues and stand for righteousness in the public square without impugning the integrity of the gospel in our own testimonies and getting our hands dirty. The process is so sully and dirty, so we're just going to let the world just go ahead and wreck our way of life, right? How many shows have we done over the years on those fallacies and topics and discussions?
Of course.
Well, I can't align with Charlie. I mean, he seems like a nice kid, but he's using the gospel just to further his political position. And then how many clergy, and thankfully, and good on them, felt the conviction of, oh, snap, I got that totally wrong. I had it backwards. Charlie was using the political process in order to preach the gospel, the other way around. And then bombarded TPUSA Faith with calls of alignment and partnership. What you saw there, again, in terms of eyeballs, it's possible that will be the largest audience that in one sitting will hear the gospel until they look up and see the Lord on a white horse. It is possible that's true. Because we've had 2,000 years of the church until that moment, and that was already the biggest singular proclamation and witness of the gospel ever. And almost none of it came from anybody with any ecclesiastical authority whatsoever. Lay people, politicians. And what Charlie proved, and that's his lasting legacy, is we can fight this battle prophetically. We don't have to choose between the fight and being prophetic. We can fight it prophetically. And that's when the enemy was like, oh no. Now the enemies just watched Carl Lewis sing the national anthem. Uh-oh, they figured it out. They cracked the code. Man the torpedoes stat. And it is no coincidence that people like Candace Owens, who might have just been benign grifters, maybe generally believed some of the stuff we believed in and embellished it and played to it because it was profitable to do so. And suddenly all restraint cast aside and just flat out, here's my forked tongue. Because the enemy thought he had time. Remember we talked about the tranny issue, how we used to say they did in 2 years what it took the homosexual issue 20 years to do? Remember that? It was almost like the enemy just thought, I'm running out of time. Dial it up. We got to, reckless abandon right now. I think the enemy did this with the divisiveness on our side after this event. And said, sorry, Candace, we're going to let you go ahead and do your heel turn way more. It was going to last longer, be way more subtle to draw more people, even more people in. But did you see what happened last week, sister? We're going to dial you up to Spinal Tap EN 11 right now. Because I think we scared him. Because we were this close to figuring it out. And if there's anything we have to accomplish in 2026 in order to get the end result at the end of the year we want, we got to figure that out again. Gentlemen, your final thoughts in the final 3 minutes we have.
These end of year shows are always fun for a lot of different reasons. And they're fun because we take them seriously and weighing and measuring what's truly important. That's good for you to have a look at and for us to sift through as well. But honestly, I can't remember a time where the way we've connected the dots and how much that matters to the year ahead has mattered more than what we've done these last couple of days. I think we put our thumb on the scale. And now it's for those who have eyes to see and ears to hear, to do what they can with it, but we are running out of time. And I think that the Christmas Carol and what Steve said about Tucker, remember that story and apply it to yourself and what you can do, who you want to be, how you want to be remembered.
There are so many reasons you can look around and let that lie of despair take hold. And we're not allowed to do that. We've talked about that ad nauseum. As believers, we're not allowed to despair. We can, however, recognize that the stakes are what they are. The situation is indeed dire. But do we really believe that God is omniscient or not? If he is omniscient, then you were placed on this planet for such a time as this. All of us have our own field, our own garden to tend to. We do. Some of that is on a massive scale in front of people. Some of that is just ourselves and our immediate family or community. But are we doing everything? Are we utilizing everything God has given us to their maximum? And if we truly take account of that, and if I truly take account of that in my own life, I'd be lying if I said, yeah, I'm going hard every single moment of every single day. But we have to remember every day is a gift to us, that we are here for such a time as this.
Amen.
And that we have to do the best we absolutely can, not for man's praise, so that someday we'll get to heaven, the other side of eternity, and hear the words, well done, good and faithful servant. That's why we're all here. We all have different jobs, but that ultimately is why we're all here.
Amen. Go hard. Romans 8:28.